The present composition of the council was in violation of the law establishing it. He announced this during a meeting with traditional rulers in the state. According to a statement by the governor's spokesperson, Christian Aburime, the governor at the meeting, which was attended by 94 traditional rulers in the state, addressed the controversy that greeted the suspension of a traditional ruler for conferring a chieftaincy title on the Nigerian senator. The governor, according to the statement, also spoke on the reason for querying two other traditional rulers for similar offense. This development is coming weeks before the 2-year anniversary of his administration as governor. I'm joined now by aide to former Governor Obiano, Dr. Nkem Okeke, is live in our Abuja studio. Dr. Okeke, thank you for joining us on the program this evening.
Thank you very much, Nifemi. Thank you.
Indeed. So Governor Soludo visited your principal last week and expressed hope that the former governor's predicament would pass away. Perhaps we should start from there. Former Governor Obiano was arrested only hours after he handed over as Anambra governor in 2022. As someone who's worked closely with him, how much impact is this EFCC case having on his legacy as former governor in Anambra?
Thank you, Nifemi. Well, the visit of the Mr. Governor to his immediate predecessor shouldn't be a problem, because former Governor Obiano was a former leader of the party and has served the state meritoriously. So it could be a fact-finding mission for Mr. Governor to have visited his predecessor. However, he hasn't said that Governor Obiano was wrong or right, or the EFCC was wrong, or whether they are right, But as the leader of the party and the governor of the state, he deemed it very necessary to visit Governor Obiano. And of course, as a learned Nigerian, we all know that issues that are subject of litigation are sub judice and shouldn't be discussed. The matter in question is already at the pedestal of the Federal High Court. So I would wish we allow the judiciary to do their work. Thank you.
What about its impact on your party, APGA? It must be a huge concern, for APGA that has held sway in Anambra for quite a number of years. Do you think it's affecting the credibility of your party in any way?
Well, of course, there is no negative impact it's having on the state or in the party. Of course, Governor Obiano served the state, just like every other governor most times. After their service to their states, there should be some flashlight from the EFCC. Like I say, the EFCC they are alleging. It's not as if it is said that they are right or wrong. They are alleging. So it is left for the court to prove. If we should be talking about the impact on the state, there is no impact, because it hasn't been ascertained that former Governor Obiano actually did this or didn't. So the EFCC are alleging, and he's not the first governor having served his state to be arraigned by the EFCC. Oh, quite well, he may be the first from Anambra State to be arraigned by the EFCC after service of the state. But then, I don't think it's something that is new to the nation. So there is no basically any impact it has on the state. The state is moving well. The leaders, the party is going well. Today, the party had held their first national working committee meeting for the year, and everything is going on smoothly.
All right, let's talk about the Soludo administration for a bit. It's now approaching the second year. Its second year in the 4-year tenure. Perhaps the latest controversy coming from Anambra is the suspension of a traditional ruler for conferring a chieftaincy title on a senator in the opposition. Now, I'm sure you're following the position of some stakeholders. They consider it undemocratic and overbearing on the part of your governor. How is this affecting his popularity in Anambra?
Okay, thank you. Well, if we should talk about that, which I feel that is not a distraction, they have moved on, you know. It was simply about maintaining law and order. It was simply about maintaining the rule of law. An adherence to law and order, you know, is a cornerstone to progress and prosperity, and that is who Professor Soludo is. That is who Mr. Governor is. He was what happened or transpired where the traditional rulers issue was just all about maintaining the code of conduct of which the high esteemed and revered custodians of our tradition understood and tendered apology accordingly. Of course, our listening governor too forgave those that he should forgive and brought back those the traditional ruler that was, you know. So it was all about breach of the rule and conduct of code of conduct of the Traditional Rulers Council, which was established already, and it has been sorted out. They had meeting just of recent with the Mr. Governor, which was part of his engagement as the continuation of his 2 years in office. He had an engagement with them where the well-lettered and highly revered Igwe Abogidi, His Royal Majesty Igwe Alfred Nnemeka Achebe, CFR, you know, reaffirmed the commitment of the traditional rulers in working with the state government. And the meeting ended in high notes. And everybody has moved on. The traditional rulers has understood that there was a breach in the code of conduct. They tendered the apology, and their high wisdom, Mr. Governor, as a listening governor, has equally forgiven them, and everybody has moved on. There is no sense that the opposition are trying to make a fuse about it, because the matter was quite clear. If you should be specific about it, looking into the code of conduct, it was quite specified in the letter written by the commissioner.
I like the way you've put it, that everyone has moved on, but the Traditional Rulers Council stays dissolved, right? You know, based on what the state governor or the state government calls violation of, you know, the rule of laws. But some have said that this is probably going to make the governor less popular if he toes this part against the traditional institution. Are you not worried?
I'm not worried a bit. One thing about changing things is, if you want to create enemies, try to change something. You know, the governor, like I told you, was simply keeping to the rule of law. Like I told you, if we must be specific, according to the provision of the Traditional Rulers Law, as amended in 2020, according to the provision of Section 2F, it was stated that the governor has the right to appoint a chairman, 2 deputy chairmen, and then a representative from across the 21 local governments, which should not exceed 11 in each of the senatorial zone, making it a total number of 36 persons. But what is obtainable today and known as the Traditional Rulers Council in the state has 58 members. And this is not known to the law. This is in total violation of the Traditional Rulers Law as amended 2020. So it cannot function legally, and it can't take valid decision. So it was only observed, and the governor suggested for us to maintain the rule of law. I suggest, why not maybe revisit this law, amend it, and collaborate, bring in all the traditional rulers, remove the limit, even according to the Traditional Rulers Law 2007 and 2020 as amended. There is only supposed to be, the chairman is only supposed to serve for a 2 term of 8 years, after which the tenure elapses. Whereas what is obtainable now, you see some
I understand your
beyond
position
8
clearly,
years.
Dr. Okeke.
So going by the law, going by the Traditional Rulers Law, what is obtainable now as Anambra State Traditional Rulers Council is not known by the law. So it is only observed and being revisited so as for it to exist in accordance with the law. And that was simple. Right. So there was nothing like because some persons were given the traditional rulers title and all that, and the governor decided to, no. It is not it. It's quite entirely different.
I get your point clearly, Dr. Okeke. Well, you know, it's just a little bit suspicious that, you know, now we're talking about the rule of law, almost 2 years into his administration, and this is happening just immediately after an APC, you know, senator was conferred with the chieftaincy title. So you understand the position of the opposition. But let's move on very quickly because it's a few weeks to Professor Soludo's 2 years in office, and we understand that his administration has committed huge resources to reposition the healthcare centers across the state. But recently, the Commissioner for Health lamented the absence of health workers at some state general hospitals during the festive period. Thankfully, you're a medical doctor yourself. Do you think his effort in the health sector is gaining as much traction?
Thank you, Nifemi. If we must talk about health sector in Anambra State, I can attest to you that Anambra State health system remains outstanding and unarguably the best in the nation currently. As a medical doctor and being part of the system, we have the best commissioner of health in Anambra State, and Mr. Governor has performed remarkably well in the health sector within 22 months in the state. Now, going by the free antenatal care services and delivery ongoing within the state. Just last month, December last month, the wife of the governor was called to a primary health center where a woman gave birth to quadruplets. You know, the man under the fear that he may not be able to carry out the financial burden of the hospital bills and all what have you, ran away. The first lady was called. She came, cared and looked at the woman that delivered the quadruplets, and at the end of the day, they were taking care of all the relief material that were given to them, and they were just told to leave without paying a kobo. And this delivery was through a cesarean section, without paying a kobo. The woman, after passing some mile, came back and said, "You mean I should go?" She was told to leave without paying a kobo. Now, it is no longer an era where there are no doctors or medical personnel in the hospitals. All the 707, all the primary health care centers across the whole 323 wards in the state are very functional now. The primary health care system has been upgraded by Mr. Governor to the most top-notch level. And as I'm talking to you now, there is an ongoing rehabilitation going on across the primary health centers. It is no longer when we only have the oxygen gas plant resident in the state teaching hospital. Now it has been moved to some of the general hospitals with endoscopy units. Different surgeries are being carried out. Mr. Commissioner visits most of the hospitals without notice, and you still see the doctors and other health personnel on ground. We now have a state emergency response team that responds to all the emergency services that are going on in the state. The health sector is doing very, very fine. There are now 30 cervical cancer screening units in the state. Of course, you know the burden of cervical cancer in Nigeria and in Africa. So, Mr. Governor is doing tremendously well in the health sector. 244 health personnel were employed in the first 22 months. As I'm talking to you, by December, a screening exam was conducted for over 5,000 medical personnel, and about 300 of them are going to be employed soon to join the stream of those that are already employed. All these are within 22 months in office.
All right. I hear you clearly. I'm wondering, on a light note, whether the runaway, father was found eventually. But when you say that, Anambra has the highest quality of healthcare, perhaps we're going to fact check that and return with our discovery. But if we have enough time, let's look at the issue of security. Recently, a group called Coalition of Southeast Youth Leaders demanded that Governor Soludo step down due to his incapacity to address security challenges. And that happened after, that recent attack that claimed the lives of 2 police officers. How well would you say the prof has done in that regard, when you consider his efforts in this area in the past 2 years?
Well, if you must talk about security, security is one thing that when you want to talk about, you discuss about the cause. One may want to, ask what are the causes, what has caused this insecurity. Of course, the injustice, agitation, and all what have you. Before now, it hasn't been like this. The Monday sit at home and all what have you. Before the coming of Mr. Governor, we have about 8 local governments under siege by this group of unknown gunmen, as so-called. 8 local governments. When Mr. Governor came on board, he not only revamped the security forces, he not only brought about the Anambra Vigilant Group, he as well set up a truth mission committee, a truth commission, yes, as headed by Professor Shede Odenkalo, and with the secretary as Ambassador Bianco Dumegwu-Ojukwu. The governor, in his wisdom, set up this truth commission so as to listen, to reach out to these persons, to know exactly what this agitation is all about. I want to hear you. What is this agitation all about? That's a democratic approach towards the insecurity. Now, this commission, he further opened a registry where the number of persons that were missing, those that were dead, are being recorded, and a compensation plan being drawn on how to reach out to these persons. This is not something that will yield an immediate result. It is a long-term approach that you don't expect the results within 2 years. As currently, in addition to the democratic process that he's using to approach the insecurity, he has revamped a joint security task force that, as I'm talking to you currently, there is no local government that is being held under siege. And the orders of the Monday sit at home is being continually disobeyed.
That's okay.
On Monday's activities, commercial activities are going on smoothly in the state. So if you look at the journey before, where we are now and where we are going, it won't be bad to say that Mr. Governor remains the best in Southeast.
I hear you clearly, Dr. Okeke.
Approach to insecurity.
I'm afraid we're running out of time. I would have asked you if you think he will be returned for a second tenure, but I can guess what your answer would be. But you agree with me that the opposition is gearing up, very well in Anambra. And some say that the Labour Party guys are waiting, for 4 years to pay him back for what he did during the 2023 general election. We see how all of that plays out, how they play out in the coming days. But that's our time. Aid to former Governor Obiano, Governor Dr. Nkem Okeke. Thank you so much for talking to us on the program this evening.
Thank you.